Hey everybody, it's Chuck Freeby. Welcome to our social media preview of the high school football weekend. Week 4 in Indiana, week 3 in Michigan. Maybe this is the weekend we start to separate the wheat from the chaff, the contenders from the pretenders. Let's start north of the border. A couple of neighboring communities going to get together on Friday night over at Leo Hoffman Field as Niles pays a visit to Edwardsburg. We saw the Vikings last week with that impressive win over Buchanan. Talon Brawley directing that triple option offense from the quarterback position. And of course, Paul Hess ran wild in that game against the Bucks, rushing for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it's going to be a much tougher task against the perennial power, the Edwardsburg Eddies. Now, I know Kevin Bartz's team has struggled a little bit early on this year. We're used to them just rolling through the regular season. They're 1-1, but that guy, Jacob Pagura, still directing the offense. It's still explosive. 364 rushing yards last week in the win over Three Rivers. The question is the defense. They've given up a total of 58 points in the first 2 games. Can they do some fine-tuning this week against Niles? I'll tell you this much. It's going to be a quick game with both of these football teams running the ball constantly. So that's Niles and Edwardsburg, pair of 1-1 teams squaring off Friday night. We've got a pair of 2-0 teams meeting at Sylvester Stadium in Marion Springs. The Allegan Tigers, bit of a resurgent team. You know, the last few years, they've only had 2 wins for the season. They come into this game 2-0 after wins over Cassopolis and Comstock. In fact, they didn't give up a point in either one of those games. But it's going to be a much tougher affair when you face Elliott Uselak's Berrien Springs Shamrocks, who are also undefeated with wins over Kalamazoo United and Hillsdale. The guy getting the job done right now for Berrien Springs is Ben Ising. He is number 2 in the state of Michigan in terms of rushing yards, but he might be a little bit banged up. So Deuce Gordon, Garrett Brewer, they're going to have big days to keep the Shamrocks on track. But I've got a pretty good feeling that it's going to be a good night for the Rocks up there in their home opener at Berrien Springs. Let's come into the state of Indiana, because what a rivalry game there's going to be in Stark County on Friday night. Liberty Field will be packed for the annual grudge match between Knox and North Judson. Of course, Russ Radke, the Knox coach, used to be the boss at North Judson, so there's some feelings there. Both of these offenses averaging 53 points per game. That's utterly amazing. Redskins running it for over 300 yards per game thanks to a backfield with Cohen Watson at quarterback. You've got Xavier Roman and Jake Conroy back there, and the freshman Miles McLaughlin has been good as well. The big difference when we take a look at North Judson here in the highlights, Brett Lambert's team not only has been cooking on offense with that combination of Aldrich Harper and Cheyenne Allen in the backfield, but their defense has been stingy. They're allowing less than 7 points per game in their first 3 contests. Now, to be fair, Knox has played the tougher overall schedule. That doesn't mean North Judson doesn't have a tremendous squad. This is always one of the most intense games of the season. They'll celebrate the 75th anniversary of North Judson football Friday night at Liberty Field. It should make it all the more exciting. While that's happening in Stark County, over in Elkhart County, we'll see who is crowned the King of the North as Northwood visits Northridge. And if you look at the records on paper, you're going to say, hey, Chuck, this is a mismatch because you've got this Northwood team coming in at 3-0. They're ranked in the top 10. Nate Andrews bringing the intensity, and they brought the passing game last week on TV, 46. Owen Rader to Nitro Tuggle. They hooked up 3 times for touchdowns in this game. Tuggle with 5 catches, 245, but the Ball State commit Ethan Evers had a big game on defense. So did Kanye King. They're going to get a tougher test from this Northridge team. Folks, I'm telling you, don't be deceived by the 1-2 record for the Raiders in Middlebury, because Chad Epley's squad has faced road challenges at both Elkhart and then last week at Mishawaka, where they nearly pulled the upset against the Cavemen, losing in a double overtime classic. Offensively, Cade Carrington to Cade Signs is a combination that you have to look out for. Carrington's had a pretty decent year throwing the ball so far. They've also got McLean Miller having a big season running the football. The big question to me in this game, can that young Raider defense hold a versatile Northwood offense in check? We'll find out Friday night at Intera Field in Middlebury. Let's go into the NIC. If you look at the coaches poll, there's going to be a top 10 showdown in Mishawaka on Friday night between New Prairie and Marion. New Prairie, number 7 in the coaches poll, number 4 in the AP poll. And once again, Casey McKim's team getting great productivity out of the quarterback, Marshall Kamichek, who is now in his second year as the full-time starter. They've got Noah Mungia back. He's averaging over 120 yards per game and 7 touchdowns in the first 3 games. And that defense, led by Tavion Ortman, is a stubborn physical group, giving up just 7 points per game. But they have to go to Marion, and Marion been a little bit of a mystery this year. Mike David's team 1-2 after losing to Bremen in a surprise last Friday. The offense, though, I feel, has been vastly improved. Bryce Lesane had a pretty good night throwing the football last week for almost 200 yards, and Marion had its best rushing night of the season. Defense continues to struggle, though. They're going to need plays like this one from Leah Pino-Sete on special teams if they're going to knock off this very strong New Prairie squad. You know, the one thing about the Penn Kingsmen is they always challenge themselves with the schedule, and it will be no different this week as they make the long trip to the Queen City of the West to take on St. Xavier of Cincinnati. Corey Yeoman's team loves to challenge itself. Last week they took on Cathedral, lost 35-21 to the third-ranked team in 6A. Now they have to face the best team, or one of the best teams in Ohio. St. Xavier has already lost to the best team in Ohio and also to the best team in Illinois. Of course, Penn starting to get productivity from new quarterback Nolan McCullough, who's a dual threat. He's got a dandy tandem in the backfield with JoJo McCullough and Jake Bayless. If there's a weakness for Penn, it's in pass defense. And that might show up in this game because St. Xavier has a quarterback by the name of Jack O'Malley, who threw for 329 yards and 4 touchdowns last week in the win over Olentangy Liberty. And of course, they're playing on their home field. Penn's got that long road trip to make. So the Kingsmen are going to be an underdog in this game. But even if they lose and go 2-2, nobody in the NIC is going to feel sorry for them because they're going to expect Penn's best shot once conference play starts next week over at Elkhart. And then the game that we have for you on TV 46 is from the NIC Small School Division as Jimtown, the defending champion of that division in the NIC, takes on undefeated John Glenn down at John Hostrasser Field. Now, the Jimmies come in with a record of 1-2. Don't let that record fool you. The 2 losses, Northwood and Concord. Don't be deceived by that 64-0 win over Osceola Grace either. Jimtown is somewhere in the middle, playing classic Jimtown football. They just as soon hit you as look at you. They're going to try to make defensive plays all over the field. They're going to run trap and belly on offense, and they just try to out-physical with players like Connor Watts, who's moved from offensive line to running back, and Sam Garner, who's shown flashes out of the backfield. Meanwhile, John Barron's John Glenn team, 3-0 for the first time since 1990. So they're feeling good down in Walkerton, but they haven't played the kind of challenging schedule Jimtown has. This will be their toughest game of the year so far. John Barron told his team that at practice on Tuesday. They want to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. They've got guys like Tyron Larkin on the outside, Chase Miller with 6 catches, 3 of them for touchdowns. If they can get the ball into their hands and continue to force turnovers on defense, 12 in the first 3 games, maybe John Glenn gets just its 2nd win over Jimtown since 1990. In fact, Jimmy's lead the series 56-5. That's been like a hammer and a nail. Maybe the nail has its moment in the sun tomorrow night on TV 46. We'll show it to you Friday night at 11 and Saturday morning at 9. And until we see you then, Chuck Freeby saying thanks for joining us on social media.